Gorgeous. Wow, aren't we lucky to have heard that original recording of a metalsmith in 1514 working on a new bit of metal. Quite riveting. Hello, and welcome back to the final couplet with me, Theo Cowan. I'm back on my own this week. Big thanks to Jacob for joining me for the last 4 sonnets. Hopefully you enjoyed those, and hopefully you're not too sad to hear me back on my own in my living room trying to dissect Shakespeare again. The good news is we've got the continuation of our long Shakespearean saga. I'll fill you in on what happened in Sonnet 99 all those sonnets ago, in case you've forgotten, which you probably have. If you've remembered what's been going on in the long story that I've woven, then that is very impressive. Some little things that have happened, or I've seen since I've been away, because I was actually away. I went to the USA. I think I mentioned that, so that was nice. But a couple of news items were published. I read something in The Guardian. The headline was, Shakespeare did not leave his wife Anne in Stratford. Letter fragment suggests. So they found this letter, or fragment of letter, and the professor who's found it says that the text shows that Anne Hathaway of course, lived with Shakespeare in London, and she wasn't actually back in Stratford, as we all thought, upending the established idea of an unhappy marriage. So that's something, isn't it? I mean, I would say have a read of the sonnets and come back to me, because it doesn't sound like he's happily married in those. But maybe they were pre-Anne Hathaway, or indeed nothing to do with her at all. And whilst I was trying to find that bit of news that I'd forgotten about, I also saw that in the Leamington Observer, Mr. Shakespeare exits stage amid racism row. And that is all about this man who is a William Shakespeare lookalike, and he's been forced to bow out amid an alleged racism row. So that's pretty horrible, isn't it? Not the news that we all wanted from the Shakespeare lookalike, Mr. Shakespeare. And I'm sure Shakespeare himself wouldn't be happy about that portrayal of him. So, shame on you. Right we are. On to the sonnet, which, of course, today is Sonnet 104. Let's take a listen, shall we? To me, fair friend, you never can be old, for as you were when first your eye I eyed, such seems your beauty still. 3 winters cold have from the forests shook 3 summers' pride. 3 beauteous springs to yellow autumn turned in process of the seasons have I seen. 3 April perfumes in 3 hot Junes burned, since first I saw you fresh, which yet are green. Ah, yet doth beauty, like a dial hand, steal from his figure and no pace perceived. So your sweet hue, which methinks still doth stand, hath motion, and mine eye may be deceived. For fear of which, hear this, thou age unbred. Ere you were born was beauty's summer dead. So there we have it, Sonnet 104. And you know what? I found this one, I liked it, first of all. In case you were wondering what my opinion of Sonnet 104 was, which you probably weren't. Maybe I just like the ones that are a bit easier to understand and you don't have to dive too deep into, which is not really great, is it? To just like the simple things, the simple sonnets, and not really like the ones that are complex and you have to really think about. But it is returning to a classic theme that we saw in the first, 24 or so sonnets, where Shakespeare was obsessed with his young lover getting older and how rubbish that would be. And he's back talking about that again in this, 104. So he hasn't let go of that idea, and he's talking about beauty leaving people over time. And there's an amazing couple of lines in this that we'll come to, where his description of beauty leaving someone slowly is just absolutely brutal. And I love it. Right, let's break this down line by line and work out what the hell Shakespeare was going on about in Sonnet 104. So we start with, "To me, fair friend, you never can be old, for as you were when first your eye I eyed, such seems your beauty still." God, that's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Your eye I eyed. Tough one to say. I quite like it though. It's a fun little ditty, that one. Your eye I eyed. Your eye I eyed. Say it quickly. Bit of a tongue twister. Anyway, he's saying, to me, you will never be old, my dear friend, my beautiful friend, because your beauty seems just the same now as it did when I first set eyes on you, when my eyes saw your eyes, as he puts it. So you're just as beautiful as then. Then he continues with, "3 winters cold have from the forests shook 3 summers' pride." So we're on to the seasons now, which Shakespeare loves to talk about. So obviously since he first saw the eyes of his young lover, or friend as people like to think that he is, obviously I think it's a little bit more than friendship, having read the first 103 sonnets. Don't know if you agree with me. So he's saying since then, 3 cold winters have taken the leaves, have shook the leaves off 3 proud summers. So, in other words, it's been 3 years. 3 beauteous springs to yellow autumn turned, in process of the seasons have I seen. So, again, same theme, same thought, really. And here he's saying 3 lovely springs have turned to 3 yellow autumns. That's how the seasons work. So again, as I said, it's been 3 years. Could have just said that in a couple of words, but instead it's taken you 4 lines. But that is poetry, baby. But he's not done there. 3 April perfumes in 3 hot Junes burned, since first I saw you fresh, which yet are green. So continuing on, he's talking about 3 Aprils. They've passed, and they had lovely perfumed flowers. I think he's talking about where he's talking about April's perfumes. I imagine it's flowers, not literal perfumes. And those Aprils have all burned up into 3 lovely hot Junes since the first day that Shakespeare set eyes on his lover's freshness. And then he says, by the way, you're still fresh and green. I think that's what he means with which yet are green. You know, you still look great, mate. Just to let you know, I'm not slagging you off. And then there's the classic Shakespeare or but. He likes to add that in, usually in the middle of sonnets, to say, look, here's one thing, but here's the other thing. And in this case it's, yet doth beauty, like a dial hand, steal from his figure, and no pace perceived. Oh, I love this line. When you really think about this and break it down, I just think it's brilliant, it's brutal, but it's true, I think. So what I think he's saying here is, so beauty is like the hand of a clock, all right? And the hand of a clock is creeping slowly over the dial, isn't it? You know, it's just slowly moving forward. And in a similar way, beauty creeps away from the person that it is attached to, from its figure. So there's you, and there's beauty, and you are one. But slowly, as time passes, beauty just starts to drift slowly away from the person it's attached to. But it's moving so slowly, so no pace perceived. You can't actually see it because it's moving at such a slow pace. Obviously, it'd be insane if beauty moved really quickly and you suddenly wake up and you go, oh God, no, oh no, where's beauty gone? I'm suddenly ugly. That would be a nightmare. But this one just slowly over time. And you know what? I think having said this out loud, I think it's a bit harsh to say that your beauty leaves you as you age. It's a bit ageist, isn't it, Shakespeare? I mean, some people actually grow more beautiful as they age. I do strongly believe that. So you're not necessarily being truthful here, because he's basically saying that as you age, you grow ugly. And I'm going to dispute that. But I love those lines all the same. Then he continues with, so your sweet hue, which methinks still doth stand, hath motion, and mine eye may be deceived. And now he's talking about his lover. So he's saying, you know, in the same way, your lovely, sweet beauty, which, by the way, seems to me initially to be standing still, is actually changing. Obviously, because that is what happens to everyone as time goes on, you know, things change. So he's saying, initially I thought your beauty was just standing still with you, was still attached to your figure, but as I've learned from writing this, it is slowly departing you, and my eye is probably being deceived. So just to let you know, you are growing ugly, slowly. And even though I don't think you are initially, you definitely are. And now we're on to the final couplet. For fear of which, hear this, thou age unbred, ere you were born, was beauty's summer dead. So he's saying, in case that is happening, in case beauty is slowly leaving you, hear this. So this is a message for thou age unbred, so future generations, essentially. Before you were born, all right, the greatest, the most beautiful thing in the world was already dead. And I think he's talking about his lover here. So before you were even born, age unbred, by the way, you missed out on seeing the most beautiful thing, and that is my lover right now. He is gorgeous and hot and sexy. So unlucky to the age unbred. Hell of a message to receive, having just been born. Oh, by the way, welcome to the world. You missed the most beautiful thing. That was a while ago. So, I mean, it depends. I mean, it could have been yesterday. You might have just missed him. Or, you know, now, 500 years later, you missed him. You actually really missed him. He was 500 years ago that he was knocking about, and that was the most beautiful thing. You might be thinking, yeah, well, look at the, the pyramids. They're pretty, pyramids beautiful. I guess so. Or what else is beautiful? Like a lovely waterfall. That might be beautiful to you. Yeah, it's beautiful, but it's not the most beautiful thing that ever existed, because that is Shakespeare's lover. So there we have it, the breakdown of Sonnet 104. And it's sort of, I mean, receiving this, I always like to think about how Shakespeare's lover would receive these, how this young, hot man would receive these poems. And this one, you'd be like, okay, so I'm still good looking. Yeah, you think I'm amazing. It's been 3 years since we set eyes on each other. And, I am slowly getting ugly though. Okay, so best to tell people that I was really good looking because I'm slowly growing ugly. Is that what you're saying there? In which case, I don't know if it's it's sort of a backhanded sonnet, isn't it? Parts of it are nice. Parts of it are like, oh, all right, well, Yeah, I know I'm getting older, but I could still be beautiful. Now, I think it's about time we move on to our story. And if you remember all the way back in Sonnet 99, Shakespeare what he bloody done? He'd locked Christopher Marlowe, his lover, up in his holiday cottage because Christopher Marlowe had a sort of love-sex addiction. He was always out trying to have sex with different people. He's cheating on Shakespeare left, right and centre. And Shakespeare had left him there, locked the door. Eventually, Christopher Marlowe got out after a couple of months, come to Shakespeare and be like, what the hell were you doing? And Shakespeare was like, look, mate, it was for your own good. I didn't find it easy either, but that's what had to happen. And Marlowe was like, dude, not cool. I really had a tough time. And Shakespeare, kind of losing his mind a little bit, was like, oh, by the way, I also had a tough time and you need to come and have a look at these flowers. Look at these flowers in Vauxhall Gardens. And so he dragged Christopher Marlowe, who was a bit like, look, you've been horrible to me. You locked me up. What are you doing? And he's dragged him all the way to Vauxhall Gardens. And he's shown him these flowers. He's saying, look, these flowers have stolen things from you. And it's not on. They've stolen these roses. Yeah, they've stolen your complexion. Look at these blue flowers. Can't remember the names. They've stolen the colour of your veins, which is pretty weird. These flowers have stolen your scent. So at this point, Marlowe's going, you have lost the plot, Shakespeare. Been away for a couple of months, you locked me up, and then you've just completely gone mad and had a crazy time in Vauxhall Gardens, seemingly on opium. And he's started to walk off. Shakespeare's run after him, reciting Sonnet 99, which was all about the flowers stealing aspects of Christopher Marlowe, his young lover. So that's where we left them. Let's see what happens next. Shakespeare finished reciting Sonnet 99 to Christopher Marlowe. Marlowe had tears in his eyes. He turned round on Shakespeare and said, you need help, Shakespeare. You've gone mad. You think I'm addicted to sex and love, but I think you are addicted to me. And Shakespeare said, I am. I can't live without you. Clearly, everywhere I look, I see you. Even these flowers, I see everything of you in them. Marlowe says, we need to stop seeing each other. It's not healthy, this relationship. Goodbye, Shakespeare. And he leans in and kisses him softly on the cheek before running off into London town. Shakespeare dropped to his knees. A thunderbolt struck the sky and the rain started pouring down. Shakespeare looked up into the clouds and screamed, no! Months passed. Shakespeare spent most of his days holed up in his house, writing plays, writing poems, sitting about, lighting fires, cooking occasionally, sitting about, writing plays, writing poems, sitting about. He rarely left the house for fear of bumping into Christopher Marlowe and it sending him on a spiral. Every day he wept for his lost love, but he knew that their separation was needed. In total, 6 months had passed. Shakespeare had started to venture out of the house again, doing his little errands, going to the Globe Theatre, doing a bit of acting. He had begun to forget about Christopher Marlowe, until one day he was walking past his old haunt, the Nag's Head pub. He glanced inside to see if any of his mates were there. And there, in the corner, was a gorgeous man. beautiful long brown locks, hazel eyes, and a stunning white-toothed smile. It was, of course, Christopher Marlowe, looking just as young and beautiful as he did those 3 years ago when they first met. Shakespeare stood frozen in the window and watched Marlowe converse with the people around him. He was energetic and stunning, and Shakespeare missed him so much. How the hell was it possible that he still looked so beautiful and so young when the man next to him, Shakespeare couldn't even remember his name, he was the same age as Christopher Marlowe, and he looked awful. Bags under his eyes, wrinkles all over the place. Beauty had certainly started to leave his body, but not Marlowe's. Shakespeare felt a sonnet coming on. He quickly got out his quill and stood in the window, writing Sonnet 104. When he finished, he grabbed a little boy passing by and said, Hey, can you read?" The boy said, "Yes, sir, I can." And Shakespeare said, "Take this sonnet." The boy said, "What's a sonnet?" And Shakespeare said, "Well, it's a poem of sorts." "Oh, yeah. Yes, yes, all right. I'm not going to explain what a sonnet is. You should know that. Now I want you to go inside and take this sonnet to that beautiful man there in the corner with the long hair and the lovely smile." "Oh, yeah, I see him. He ain't half bad looking, sir. You're right there. And I'll give you a shilling to recite it to him, all right? And you just say, 'From the man that loves you.'" "All right, sir, whatever you say, but I'm going to need that shilling first." Shakespeare puts a shilling in the little boy's palm and sends him off into the pub. The boy walks straight up to Christopher Marlowe and says, "Sir, I've got a sonnet, which is a sort of poem, and I'm going to recite it to you. It is from the man who loves you." Marlowe sits still, can't believe what he's seeing, and the boy starts to recite Sonnet 104. "To me, my friend, you will never be old, for you seem just as beautiful as when I first laid eyes on you. Since then 3 cold winters have shook the leaves off 3 proud summers. 3 beautiful springs have turned to 3 yellow autumns over the course of the seasons. 3 Aprils full of perfumed flowers have burned up into 3 hot Junes since the first day I saw your fresh face, which is still fresh and green. Ah, but beauty, like the hand of a clock, steals away from the person it belongs to, slowly, so that no one can see it. Your sweet beauty, which I think is still standing still, is actually in motion, and my eye is deceiving me. If it is, hear this, generations to come. Before you were born, the height of beauty was already dead." So there we have it. Wow, what a return to the story, eh? Shakespeare and Marlowe. Shakespeare still loves him. Does Marlowe love him back? We'll find out next week. Until then, bye.